Welcome to Botches Off-Road. Join us as we talk about everything from gear reviews to trail stories, tent camping to rock landing, and all things to do with the outdoors. Today, because I botched our episode we actually did yesterday, I moved all our recording equipment for myself from my son's room to my room to give him a little bit more space, and while recording my copy for Audacity, I forgot to reselect my mic as the recording device. So when Alex went to go edit this, he got about an hour and a half to 2 hours of silence coming from me. So that's fun. I screwed that up. My bad. We had a really nice interview with Brian R. Sweet and his Forerunner that he's got, and we might have him on later to kind of chat a little bit. But yeah, I kind of screwed that up. So we were going to wait and do this, but I'm going to just do it now. That way we have something we can put out, which is the Northology magazine. And we're going to talk a little bit about the couple articles that they have in here. I'm going to read them off to you. That way you don't have to read them yourself. And then if you want to look at Northology magazine and check that out, see what else is in there, then you are more than welcome. So the first article I'm going to read is called Overlanding is the American Way, a homegrown tradition of exploration. The American Overland Legacy. Long before GPS, Americans were blazing trails into the unknown. The term overland itself may have emerged from these domestic expeditions. Consider Meriwether Lewis and William Clark, whose corpse of discovery departed St. Louis in 1804 on what would be called the original American overlanding expedition. Their mission? Navigate the rivers, mountains, and plains in search of a route to the Pacific with just grit, gear, and the guidance from indigenous communities. Decades later, the Overland Trail carried thousands of immigrants westward. These pioneers weren't weekend warriors, they were travelers seeking new lives beyond the Mississippi. Traveling by wagon through the treacherous and untamed terrain, the infrastructure of today's backroads and byways owes much to the determined tread of those early overlanders. The Overland Trail, America's first overland highway. Long before the term overlanding entered the modern lexicon, the Overland Trail served as one of the earliest and most iconic examples of vehicle-assisted travel, albeit powered by oxen and grit instead of diesel and differential locks. Running 2,000 miles from Missouri to Oregon and California, the Overland Trail became a lifeline for pioneers, gold seekers, and settlers in the mid-1800s. Unlike the earlier Oregon Trail, the Overland Route, also known as the South Pass Route, offered a slightly more hospitable and efficient corridor through Wyoming, avoiding some of the treacherous river crossings and mountain passes that plagued earlier travelers. By the not in the 1960s, the 1860s, the route gained even greater significance when Ben Holliday's Overland Stage Company began using it to carry passengers, freight, and U.S. mail between Missouri and Salt Lake City, and eventually all the way to California. Stations were placed every 10 to 15 miles where travelers could rest, change horses, and brace for the next leg of the dusty, jolting travel. Through the railroad would eventually render the trail... Though the railroad would eventually render the trail obsolete, the legacy of the Overland Trail lives on in the very idea of remote land travel through rugged terrain. Today's overlanders echo the same values: self-reliance, exploration, and willingness to head into the unknown. Modern rigs may have rooftop tents and a GPS, but the spirit of the Overland Trail still rides with every traveler. Which brings us to today's Overlander, still following the frontier. So why the gatekeeping? Why imply a traveler who treks the Dalton Highway, the Mojave Road, or the Boundary Waters region isn't really overlanding, unless they're also juggling visas and passports and bribing border agents? To be clear, there is a value in international travel, but American overlanders aren't simply stuck in their borders. They are choosing to explore a continent-sized country with a staggering range of terrain, from the alpine trails of the Rockies to the saguaro-studded routes of the Sonoran Desert. From the dense Appalachian forest, the windswept Great Plains, there is no shortage of challenge, remoteness, and self-reliance required. And let's not forget the cultural patchwork that makes each region distinct. One can cross borders in America simply by crossing county lines. A trip from Arizona to Louisiana could feel more foreign than a crossing from Spain to Portugal, which is definitely true. So, that was the article, and that has a lot of merit to it. We've been overlanding and traveling from one place to another for very, very long time. I mean, since settlers were coming from Europe to America, whatever, however you want to put it, colonizers or whatever. But the want to find something better and to do something for yourself, to better your life, has always been there. It's just kind of evolved. I mean, for me now, the want for me to get out and experience some peace and tranquility and to explore the unknown, or at least a semi-unknown, and see the things that are out there to see, is a driving force for me. I really enjoy that, and my family does as well. And it's something that's great for the kid. He gets to see what there is to see out there. He gets to see a different side of the technology. The technology like driven world. I think a lot of the kids nowadays don't really get that, and I think it's only going to get worse. There will always be those families that push nature and being outside and whatnot, but if you look at the dependency on electronics nowadays, I think these newer generations, I think we're going to see camping and, the overlanding world, I think we're going to see that drop off a little bit because they can get pretty much everything at their fingertips. They want to see cool things. They can watch YouTube. They can do this. They can do that. They could play a video game about it. I mean, hell, they have a farming simulator and lawn mowing simulator, and they even have like off-road trucking simulators and, all that. So I think some of that kind of kills the curiosity within the kid to get out there and experience it for themselves. I mean, like I said, of course you have outliers and some of us that are going to raise our kids a little different, but a lot of these kids are going to be so focused on technology that they're going to miss out on everything that this beautiful country and world has to offer. So we've been doing it for a while. The definition might have changed. The name might have changed, but we've been traveling since the beginning of time. We've always been looking. So it's just a matter of how we do it. And I hate to put any kind of definition on overlanding, because at the end of the day, as long as you're out there, that's all that matters. So we're going to take a look at a second article called The Roadless Rule Rescission. Now, I didn't know about this until, I would say, last night. I had to look up what the roadless rule rescission was, and what it was a let me get you an actual definition here, or of kind of what going on. So here, via Copilot, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the USDA, is rescinding the 2001 roadless rule, which will unlock 30% of national forest system and allow for common sense forest management practices. This decision will remove prohibitions on road construction, reconstruction, and timber harvest on nearly 59 million acres of the national forest system. So, with that in mind, what this might mean for us as overlanders and explorers could be pretty good. I mean, as long as they don't do something to, mitigate our travel through these areas, what it could lead to is more trails. So I'm going to read the article for this, and I'll let you kind of decide, and maybe you guys will have some kind of insight on this. So what does it mean for overlanders? The rescission of the roadless rule, depending on how it's implemented, could positively affect overland travel and dispersed camping in several key ways, also providing potential benefits to forest health and land management. Benefits for the overland travel and dispersed camping would be like expanded access to remote areas. Lifting the roadless rule allows for limited road construction and maintenance in previously restricted areas. This means overlanders and dispersed campers could gain access to more remote and rugged parts of the national forest, increasing the opportunities for solitude, exploration, and backcountry adventure. The better maintenance of existing forest roads. Forest managers can now more easily repair and reopen roads that were previously neglected due to rule constraints. Improved access means safer travel conditions and fewer closures due to impassable routes, especially following wildfires, landslides, or other severe weather. Increased dispersed camping opportunities. As more areas become accessible by vehicle, dispersed camping options could increase. This will reduce overcrowding at traditional campsites and help spread out the visitor impact across a wider landscape, potentially preserving the quality of experience. And improved wildlife mitigation. The ability to create or maintain roads can aid wildfire prevention and response. Fire crews can access vulnerable areas more quickly, and land managers can implement strategic thinning and prescribed burns more efficiently, key components in reducing catastrophe with the wildfires. And then there's more effective land stewardship. The increased mobility through the forest roads and with the increased mobility through forest roads, agencies and conservation groups can conduct better monitoring, invasive species control, and restoration work in the backcountry areas. This can lead to healthier ecosystems that benefit wildlife, watersheds, and long-term recreational use. Adaptive management in a challenging environment. As natural changes intensify, beetle infestations, drought, having the flexibility to build and restore access roads enables proactive and timely management interventions. While the rescission opens doors for overlanders and improves Forest Service capability, its important access is expanded responsibly. Yes, it's important that the access is expanded responsibly. Collaboration between user groups and land managers and conservation organizations will be critical to ensure that new or reopened roads don't compromise sensitive habitats or lead to overuse. Access versus disposal. The rescission of the roadless rule and the subtraction of public land sale provisions from the Big Beautiful Bill, the comprehensive public lands legislation, may seem unrelated, but they reflect a broader pivot in the federal land policy towards the sustainable access and stewardship, not the privatization or restriction. Roadless rule rescission. This policy rollback allows for a strategic road construction and maintenance in designated roadless areas for overlanders, firefighters, forest managers, and dispersed campers. It allows for the ability to reach, use, and care for public lands that were previously inaccessible, even for needed restoration or emergency access. Striking the public land sales clause. The original draft of the Big Beautiful Bill included language that would have allowed the sale and disposal of certain federal lands. That language was stripped out after the public outcry, ensuring that these lands remain in public hands, open to the recreation, conservation, and responsible use. Together, these changes send a clear signal. The federal government listened to the outcry and is prioritizing keeping the public lands public and making them meaningfully accessible. Rather than locking up lands behind legal barriers or selling them off to the highest bidder, these combined policy moves support the active engagement, responsible recreation, and localized land management, giving adventurers, volunteers, and local stakeholders a renewed role how these landscapes are accessed and cared for. Is this a win for recreation and conservation? From the article, it seems like it's a balancing act, which, okay, yeah, it says right here. Do environmentalists have any legitimate concerns on these topics, or is this a win for conservation and recreation? The reality is more nuanced than a simple win for conservation and recreation. The rescission of the roadless rule and the removal of the land sale provisions have different implications, and while some outcomes may benefit overlanders, the forest management, others may come with trade-offs. What might happen that could be a negative, I guess, would be habitat fragmentation. Building new roads, no matter how limited, can fragment wildlife corridors and introduce invasive species, noise, and pollution into previously undisturbed ecosystems. Precedent for resource extraction? Yes. The original roadless rule was created in part to protect forests from logging and mining, even if the intent has improved recreation, access, or fire management. The rule's rollback could open the door to commercial interest in remote public lands. The loss of ecological preserves. Roadless areas are some of the last semi-pristine places in the U.S. public lands. Wow, I am really screwing this part up. Conservationists worry that increased access could degrade the ecological integrity. Subtraction of public land sales. Generally seen as a win for conservation, most environmental groups and reduction advocates supported this move, keeping the public lands in public hands and helps safeguard public access for non-motorized and motorized users alike. It helps the habitat protection under federal oversight and long-term stewardship rather than short-term. So yeah, that was the 2 articles from Northology Adventures, July edition anyway, that I'm going to read. And then I'm just kind of go over some of the things that are in the magazine itself. So we do have one of our Michigan guys in here. That would be on the rig profile, and that's Mitchell McPherson in his 2020 Toyota Tacoma. Mitchell lives in Traverse City. He's a police officer, and he has a 3.5 liter V6, and it's got the auto factory rear locker with diff breather. They asked him why did he choose this vehicle, and he said the GX470 is an awesome mix of capability, reliability, and ruggedness, and space for my family of 6. So I think that might have gotten mixed up because I know Mitchell, and he doesn't have a GX470, and he's got a Tacoma. So I'll have to let her know about that. Suspension. He's got Dobinson 2 to 3 inch IMS shocks, springs, 800-pound rear leaf springs, and Falcon Wild Peak AT3s, 285, 75, 16, JBA upper control arms. He's got the Backwood Adventure mods, front bumper, and Badlands 12,000-pound winch, and so far it's been pretty awesome combination. The bumper is lightweight due to being both aluminum and steel, a mixture. His camping setup, he's got an LU cab canopy camper. It's the best setup I've ever had, he says. However, it is a commitment. It has a 270 awning and a shower room on the outside. And on the inside of the camper, I have an EcoFlow power station, an EcoFlow alternator charger, and a deep cycle battery for my diesel heater. There is also an IceCo fridge in the back that keeps me off-grid longer, and it makes travel simple. Other than that, those are the pretty major additions. The rest remains pretty simple. Blue water jugs, Coleman stove, and everything else you need for basic camping. Next on the build list will be a high clearance rear bumper, not sure which brand yet. And what outdoor activities and hobbies does he like? He will occasionally take mountain bikes or my dual sport motorcycle. Almost always have hiking boots and a swimsuit for those beautiful Michigan days. And what does overlanding or remote travel mean to you? Vehicle-based exploration where you can be self-sufficient. That's a good one. So you can see Mitchell's social media profile at MMC Pearson Media. So MMC PHERSON Media. I believe that's on Instagram. He's got a pretty cool Tacoma. He's a very nice guy. And yeah, check him out. So what else we got here? We got the usual New Holland Overland LLC. It's a West Michigan-based adventure vehicle outfitting company. You have the Dead Miners, which we kind of probably talked about earlier. Dead Miners is like a super cool website. They got a bunch of like handmade stuff, bunch of cool little like not knickknacks, but you know what I mean. Yeah, they got some articles on this for paddle gear. They got your typical the radio chatter stuff. They try to mix it up, and they have these same a couple of the same guys in here because I'm sure they either sponsor it or something like that. But it is still cool seeing, and like all these links in the magazine, you can usually click on them and see kind of the website. Like that's kind of how we discovered some of these things on here in the first place. So then they have like pictures of like people overlanding and like where they're going and just pictures of the activity in general. Yeah, they have all sorts of cool stuff. And let's see, they have a part about charity and stewardship programs that they're working with. Looks like Hero, Blue Ribbon, Idaho State 4x4, Tread Lightly. So they got a lot of different stuff in there. And then they have a directory towards the end, which helps with common navigation, camping gear, the Momentum podcast for more expo. They have the North Woods Overland Adventure, which is like a community. And then they have Overland Radio, Orbis Overlanding. They're doing a Crawl for the Cure 21st anniversary. They've raised over $1.7 million since 2005, which is super, super, super cool. And then they have the Rigs and Coffee schedule, and that is for Midwest 4x4s in Hudsonville, Michigan, which you can look up on Facebook. The next one, I believe, is 7/27. Then they have 8/24, 9/28, and 10/26. Those are the upcoming dates on that. So, yeah, pretty cool stuff. Northology is really cool to kind of get that, kind of learn about, some of the local stuff going on around here in the, I guess, Midwest. Some people don't consider us Midwest, but I kind of lump us in there. So, yeah, it's pretty cool. I would check it out if you guys haven't already. Otherwise, I'm going to kind of shift gears here, and we're going to talk about my plan. So in the wrap, I didn't actually put, some of the stuff I had. So I just got done with spring kids camp a couple weeks ago. That was great. You've heard about that. And my power steering went out, or was going out, and was eating my belt. So I waited for my parts there, got my parts back, and started working on that, which was a pain in the ass. The new power steering pump that I ordered, which, granted, I bought a cheap one off of Rock Auto, but the outlets weren't in the exact same position. So it kind of took some finagling for me to get the old connections back to where they were. So like the hose outlet wasn't exactly the same. It was a little more back. There was a bolt hole for the harness, like to clip onto to keep it away from things. And then there was a ground wire bolt. Those were both super, super hard to get to. And not only that, they were in different positions. So if you were to hook it up the correct way, you couldn't really get them to hook the same way. Where the cable, the ground cable hooks up versus where the clip holder was at. So a lot of that was us trying to figure out how that would work. And then once I figured out it was kind of just a holder and didn't really matter, and I figured a ground was a ground. They were 2 inches apart, and the bolt holes were very similar looking. We kind of jammed those in to fit and kind of made it work. So I refilled my power steering fluid, which I didn't know was actually just transmission fluid. And then we burped the heck out of it, which was, just turning to full lock on both directions about 1 million times until you got most of the air out of the system. I put a new belt on. I rechecked all my pulleys to make sure there wasn't any wobbling, anything like that. Made sure my tensioner was tensioning my belt correctly, and then put everything back together. And so far, so good. So it took a little while for the power steering to clear up a little bit and get back to where it was. But otherwise, it's been good. So hopefully we are ready for the West UP exploration trip that we're going to be doing here in about a week. And that is going to be starting from my house here in Grant area to the West UP, like it's going to be like Braga, Copper Harbor, that kind of area over there. So it looks like it's going to be probably close to 1,200 miles to 1,600 miles through, trails and between, I don't know, basic roads between the trails and some other stuff. So we're going to, start, either leave Wednesday night or Thursday, and then we're going to move up to, it's going to be what area here? Next, Hog Island, Point State, or, close to Nobbin Way. We're going to camp in Nobbin Way area probably Thursday night. And then we're going to do, Friday, we're going to take the big trek west until we get to the, I think it's Ironwood area, Gladstone in the UP, and then we're going to take trails pretty much all the way up to Copper Harbor. We're going to try and hit some of these bigger touristy areas. But I mean, my wife has never been to the West UP. The farthest west we've been is Lance. So going to be really cool for her. We're going to see a lot of things that we typically don't get to see down here in the lower peninsula. We don't have the massive amounts of rock that they have up here. We're more of like sand and mud. They're more like rock, sand, and mud, with rock being a lot more prevalent. So a lot more cliffs, that type of thing, like granite rock faces, which is super cool to me. I always love it when we cross the bridge, and almost immediately after we cross the bridge, you start to see like these reddish rock faces on the left and right side of the highway, and it's like, dude, it's like you just went into a whole different country. I've never been to Colorado, but that would be the way that I compare it. It would be like going to Colorado, because it's just beach, mud. There's not any rock cliff kind of things in Lower Peninsula, and it's just everywhere up in the Upper Peninsula. It's how it is. And so that also brings like super cool rock faces and waterfalls and like pictured rocks lakeshore and stuff like that you don't get to see in the Lower Peninsula. So it really genuinely feels like a coastal state, with the cliffs and the rock face and all that. So, and then, you're right on Lake Superior, which if you've never been, it really does get compared to the ocean quite a bit. A lot of people who haven't been over here kind of think about that, and they're like, yeah, it's not. But if you look at it, the way that it acts, the way that it acts and looks a lot like an ocean because of how large it is. Of course, it's not salt water, and it doesn't have the same ecosystem and fish and blah, blah, blah. I think you get the picture, but it's just the way that it acts. I mean, if you look at some of the statistics behind Lake Superior and how big it is, it's one of the biggest inland lakes in the world. So it's pretty cool. And, you get out to the coast, and just about as far as you can see, you could just barely see a tinge of land sometimes. So, and it's cooler up there. It's going to be really nice. I'm assuming and am planning for colder nights into the 40s, 50s. So that's going to be really nice. I love sleeping in that weather. It's like perfect for me. My wife is a little bit more of a chilly blood, so she would rather it be in the early 70s to sleep in, but I'm cool with that. 50s is good. Me and my son are cool with that. He's warm-blooded too, so we'll have fun with that. But we're going to try and see a couple waterfalls. I think Bond Falls is on the way. We're going to go check out a mine or two, and we're going to try to get up to the Keweenaw Peninsula, which is the top, I guess I would call it, horn of the UP. It's funny, the UP kind of looks like a side profile of like a pterodactyl almost. So it would be like the top horn of the pterodactyl. So we're going to go all the way up to the top peak of it, and then we're going to check out, they have like it's called Copper Harbor. We're probably going to check that out a little bit. We're going to check out the Baraga, like Keystone Cut. There's a couple like cool little trails around there. And then we're going to probably try to head down to Gay, Michigan. And Gay, Michigan actually has a beach that was actually almost, I think, if I remember right, it was made completely off of waste from the mill. So it's like a bunch of like sand and waste off of the mill. So it's like a dark gray sand color. And so we're going to check that out. And then we're going to check out the old launch pad. There was a missile launch or a rocket launch pad that was there from the 50s, back when, what was it? I can't remember what it's called, or I'm sorry, 50s, 60s, and when we were doing the, what is it, Stargate, Overlord, Overwatch, whatever that was, the race was there. But yeah, there's an old rocket launch pad over there that we're gonna check out. Like I said, couple of mines, bunch of waterfalls and sights to see over here. I know that we're going to do a mine tour at some point. We're going to probably head through Houghton, which is a really beautiful area, and take the trails around that. And then I'm probably going to finish it off by going to the Porcupine Mountains. If you've never seen or never been to Michigan, and you've never got to like see or experience anything like that, I would definitely suggest going to Porcupine Mountains. They're one of the few mountain ranges in Michigan. Most of them are in the UP. I think there's Porcupine, and then there's like Mount Arvon, something like that. There's not much, and they're not super crazy high either, but Porcupine Mountains is unique because it has a lake like in the actual mountain area, if that makes sense. So the lake is referred to, I think, is referred to and or named Lake of the Clouds because it's in the mountain system. And typically on the days it's higher up in elevation, so it's, lake in the clouds, it's in the mountains. So one of the few lakes located in mountains. So it's very, very, very beautiful. And if you do any kind of overlanding or anything in Michigan, it's definitely something that you have to check out. If you are in Michigan and you're looking for crazy cool places to explore, I would, like, if you're overlanding Michigan in general and you're like, where's the cool spots? Where's the nature and the cool spots that I want to see? I would tell you, as someone who lives in the Lower Peninsula is beautiful. You have like the Sand Lake. You have like the Sleeping Bear Dunes. You have, gosh, I don't know why I can't think of it now, but you have like the dunes for like, all the buggies and stuff go on to, and that's cool. Like, you could drive on it in the sand, and if you like bumping around and beach sand and stuff like that and getting rowdy and stuff, it's cool. I mean, you can't camp on it, so that sucks, but as far as like overlanding stuff goes, other than, the trails are beautiful down in Lower Michigan, don't get me wrong, but as someone who lives in Lower Michigan, my advice would be pretty much stick to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, really. Start down by like Charlevoix, which is the Lower Peninsula. And I mean, if you do like touristy stuff, the west coast of Michigan, down the west coast, if you follow the roads down there, you get all cool little west coast towns that are beautiful little areas. But I always try to start around Charlevoix, because that's kind of when things start to get really like beautiful. And then I take up Mackinac City is pretty cool. Mackinac Island, as far as like tourist attraction goes, Mackinac Island's like one of the most popular tourist attractions in Michigan. And then for the off-roaders, Drummond Island is the most popular. So Drummond Island is kind of just up in the UP. They have ferries that go onto the island, and Drummond Island actually has like actual like rock face, like rock configurations that people have been wheeling on for a long, long time. So they have a bunch of trails on Drummond Island, and it's the hardest stuff that you're gonna get in the Michigan area, as far as like technical rock terrain goes. And then once you get over into the UP, there's a bunch of like, I'll name some of the touristy things. Like, what's the go-to thing to do in the UP? And it's like Muldoon's. Muldoon's is like a pasty like shop. And a pasty or pasty, that's like one of the Michigan arguments, how is it said? But a pasty is like this, I would compare it to like shepherd's pie almost, or like it's got meat, potatoes, like a little gravy type thing in it. It comes with gravy, but it's like meat, potatoes, and corn. It can have a variety of different things in it, and it's wrapped up into like a bun, like a bread. This is gonna sound super stupid, but look it up when I'm done telling you. And it was originally created as like a miner's meal, if I remember right from reading. It has this big bubble shape. I guess if you were to make a fist, it was about the size of your fist, and then has a really, really big crust rind on one side. And apparently, from what I read when I was there, that women used to like make this for their husband, for miners, and they would eat the pastry all the way down to that big crust. That crust was really, really big. It's not like a pie crust. It's, if you were to make a O with your hands, the crust would be about the same girth as that O. So it's really hard trying to explain it over a podcast, but so they would actually eat it from that, the rind or the crust, and then once they ate to that rind, they would throw the rind away, because typically the miners up there were working with like arsenic or whatever, like poisonous mining material. So they had that all over their hands. So that's kind of like how they would mitigate that risk. Nowadays, obviously, we have some different practices and we kind of eat lunches different, but I think that's the main type of story with that, is that they had this big pastry with almost a handle, because that was kind of what it was used like. And they would eat up until they got to that crust-made handle, and then they would throw that away. That way they weren't poisoning themselves with the mining material and byproduct they have on their hands. So, kind of a cool little piece of history. So everybody who comes into Michigan, the Upper Peninsula, goes to Mackinac Island and gets the famous Mackinac Island fudge. That's like, everybody knows about that. And then they get pasties. Those are like the two main foods up there. So, and then so once you do that, you check that off your list. Most people like going to the Sioux Locks. Sault Ste. Marie is the town where that's at. So we have a locks from Canada to to Michigan, where the freighters will pass through to get to different parts of the Great Lakes. The Sioux Locks is that bridge. Freighters will come in through Sault Ste. Marie. It'll change the water level, and then they'll come out down what I think is called the St. Mary's River, and they'll go into Lake Huron. So, and they kind of go through that Canada there. There's also I think a bridge to Canada up there around Sault Ste. Marie as well. So if you want to get to Canada, you can go through Sault Ste. Marie. What else? So one of the biggest tourist attractions in the east part of, and this is other than lighthouses, because a lot of people, when they come up there, they're like searching out lighthouses and stuff like that. So other than that would be like the waterfalls in Upper Peninsula. So those are known for it. And the most known waterfall in the UP is Tequamanon Falls. Tequamanon has an upper and a lower falls. They have a whole thing built around it. Tequamanon like State Forest and that whole thing. And if you've never been there, go there. It's absolutely gorgeous. They have lots of cool boardwalks. They have a hard 4.5 mile hike from the lower to the upper falls. And if you like hiking, it's absolutely gorgeous and you would love it. And then they have usually a shuttle that'll take you back down to the lower falls if you don't want to do the down and back. But the Tequamanon Falls, it's absolutely gorgeous. Bring your walking shoes. And it's one of those things that if you go there, you have to see it. It's beautiful. If you're overlanding, I would recommend a campsite at the mouth of the Two-Hearted River. So it's Two-Hearted, mouth of the Two-Hearted campground or Two-Hearted campground. It's absolutely beautiful. A bunch of rock hounds go there, as well as Crisp Point Lighthouse. Also really, really beautiful. Tons of rock hound stuff there. And then once you get into, like, what else do I want to see? You kind of go along the top coast of the UP, and you get into, like, Grand Marais. Grand Marais is like a little bay area. It's got a bunch of cute little shops and gift stuff. It's really, really cool, and it's one of the bigger towns you will get to. And then if you keep going left, you'll pass a bunch of hiking. So if you like hiking, the UP is fantastic for that. I mean, you have Pictured Rocks, which is a little bit more west, I believe. And Pictured Rocks is really beautiful. You can go and do like the Pictured Rocks tour, and that's like super popular. And they are gorgeous. Like, if you've never seen them before, they're really cool. You should do it. It is one of the most common things in there. Is like, you have the Shipwreck tour. You have Whitefish Point, which has like the Shipwreck Museum. You have like the Pictured Rock tours. Then you have like the mining tours. So, I mean, Northern UP, basically the whole thing was off of like shipping for logs or mining. I mean, it was a big mine, a mine thing. So, as far as like the islands go, Isle Royale is like one of the best hiking islands there is. It's a whole different ball game. So if you want to do like one of the coolest and one of the most remote hiking places in the surrounding Michigan area, Isle Royale is the way to go. Super, super cool. Then you have like Grand Island. It's not really a bunch there. Cool towns like Munising. Let's see. Then you get into Marquette. Marquette is a gorgeous town. That's going to be like your biggest town in the like upper peninsula area that I'm talking about. The next biggest one is like east. So you have like Marquette, and then you have Sault Ste. Marie. So if you need anything really important, like a Walmart or something like that, like to get shoes like I did, yeah, you have those two to choose from. So Marquette's actually, I mean, super gorgeous. Like the old town part of it is just beautiful, made mostly out of like the granite rock from the surrounding area. So it's like red, super beautiful. Then you get to like Lance, and from Marquette to Lance is when things start to go crazy. Like the trails get really cool. The waterfalls, I mean, they're everywhere on the way. Like you can find waterfalls everywhere. So start looking for those. And then once you get to like Lance, that's kind of like that's like where we stopped at last time. And then there is all sorts of different things to do, like Copper Harbor. I mean, it's called Copper Harbor for a reason. They have a bunch of copper mines. They have the launch pad up there. They have the Keweenaw Peninsula, which is great trails and great sites. And there's tons to see. There's mining tours. There's lots of like gift shops and knickknack stuff that you can go. The beaches are super, super cool. And there's tons of camping in the UP too. So there's like between camp spots, and if you do dispersed camping like us, there's no shortage of camp area. Then you get to like, they have the 7-hour plane crash trail that goes from, the UP goes up from the Keweenaw to Wisconsin, which I've heard now is quite boring, but it's one of those things that I'm going to just check off the list someday. Then you get west back into like Porcupine Mountains, and as I kind of said earlier, so there is tons of stuff to do in the UP. You really can't do it all in one go. Like, we're doing most of the west side in 5 days, the big parts in 5 days, and that's not enough. It really isn't. I mean, I've done 3 to 4 trips and done the east side to Lance, and I've been to the UP quite a few times before, so like I know all the other little attractions like Kitchity Kippy, and the arch on Mackinac Island and Mackinac Island as a whole. So I know I like the little attractions here and there. They have like an Oswald's, like it's a bear like sanctuary, stuff like that. The mystery spot, it's one of those popular tourist destinations. The Youper, I forget what it's called, the Youper store, I think it is, which is like a goofy little novelty store it's like one of the biggest novelty stores in Michigan. Got a bunch of knickknacks in there, like big tourist hit spot too. And so there, like Castle Rock and stuff like that. So yeah, I've seen all that small stuff. I've been there, so I can kind of filter it out from like what Sienna wants. So Sienna's my wife, and she's never been anywhere that I haven't taken her in the UP. So west of Leonce, she's never been to. So super excited to take her on this and for her to see all this stuff that she's never even seen before. It's like one of my great joys in life is to watch her experience something new and just travel and adventure. I love watching her experience that. So and of course Jasper's going to be there too, so he's going to be experiencing all this stuff for the first time as well. So double win for me. I just have to drive. I just got to drive. I got to keep at it. It's going to be a long drive. We're hoping nothing goes wrong, as I think probably everybody does, but it's going to be really fun. And, I guess this kind of turned into, from a Northology to really talking about my trip to the UP to kind of talking about the UP in general, because there really is a lot there. I don't think anybody really thinks about Michigan like that. Like when they think about overlanding, you have the West Coast, you have the Ozarks, you have like Oklahoma and some of those other spots, but you don't really think of things like Maine. Like Maine's got some really cool trails on there too, but yeah, it's obviously not the same. The sites aren't quite the same. The mountain ranges, like there's crazy cool places in like the Carolinas and stuff to go and see, in Tennessee where the mountain ranges. I mean, but everybody already knows that. But Michigan kind of gets left behind, and it doesn't deserve the hate, man. There's some gorgeous things to go and see in Michigan. While it isn't the hardest and most challenging obstacle-wise, technical wheeling-wise, for sites, it's on par with a lot of other places. People that have never been to Michigan, when they see the sites in Michigan, they go, "Oh yeah, okay, yeah, this has some merit." Like, yeah, it's not the redwoods of California, it's not like Moab, it's not the Great Plains, but it's its own unique ecosystem. The forest, the trees, the woods, cedar forests, just gorgeous area. So, and there's not a lot of places that have, like ocean-like beaches in one place, and then rocky cliff edges, and then mud, and then complete inland. Like it's just such a diverse area. You know what I mean? It's hot, it's cold. Michigan, I mean, known for its mood swings and temperatures. I mean, one day it's 90 degrees, the nights are 50. The other day it's 50s and 40s at night. Like, it's super different. Michigan is very, because of the Great Lakes, the temperature varies quite a bit. And in the UP, you have to pack for that too, because In lower Michigan, you can pretty much guarantee that you're going to get pretty warm weather. You're pretty safe to not have to pack layers. But when you're on that coast of Lake Superior, man, things can get chilly. There was a couple days where I did wear a sweatshirt until just about noon, just because there was quite a chill, being, 60 around that with a wind blowing everywhere, sun's, a little cloudy, stuff like that. I mean, crazy. But anyway, I thank you guys for listening on this. Me kind of blabber about the UP and blabber about Northology magazine. Like I said, this is my bad kind of episode, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. And I'm going to sit down and edit the crap out of this and get it ready to post. Get some chapter art. I'm going to make up for my wrongdoings. I'm going to hammer down. And I will see you guys on the next one.